This message comes from Amazon One Medical. Ever gotten sick on vacation? Amazon One Medical has 24/7 virtual care, so you can get help no matter where you are. It's kind of like the room service of medical care. Thanks to Amazon, healthcare just got less painful.
You're listening to Code Switch from NPR. I'm B.A. Parker.
And I'm Leah Danella.
On this bonus episode of the show, we're going to be hearing from some of you about what brings you joy, how you connect joy and justice work, and why joy is so important in your lives.
What draws me to protest is joy. Joy in being among people who feel the same way. Joy in community. Joy in the humor, the humanity, and the music shared at protests and at marches.
I'm thinking about this topic from the lens of being queer and working with folks with limited resources. I think that joy is helpful to resisting the same way that community care and self-care is. They help us to continue to exist and not get bowed down or snuffed out. Because we exist, that itself resists that system of oppression.
I am able to connect joy to resistance when I remember that joy is what I'm resisting for. That's the whole point.
The voices you just heard were Roberta Buckberg, Ariane Watson, and Leanne Schneider-Webb. Here's Leanne again.
Joy, hope, love, rest, the ability to exist peacefully in our bodies and communities without little goblins breathing hot, rancid air down our necks. When my neighbors come over for family dinner, or I get drinks with friends after the protest because it's a beautiful night, or I walk to the coffee shop and laugh with the barista, or I sit in the park and watch all the dogs and all the ducks, it reminds me that the end goal here, at least for me, is not actually civil war. The end goal is a world where everyone can be free, safe, and healthy enough to pursue happiness.
Those are just a few of the many, many Code Switch listeners who wrote in to tell us what joy as resistance looks like to them. And Parker, some of those messages were so insightful and powerful and moving that I just wanted to share them with more of our audience. One of the messages that really stood out to me was from Kathy. She asked us not to use her full name because of potential conflicts with her employer. But Kathy lives in Pasadena, and she told us she's a direct descendant of Los Pobladores, aka one of the first families in the city of Los Angeles. And she said since the ICE raids started, things have been really hard.
I'm 8th generation in the Southern California area, but I'm not foolish enough to think that makes me immune to what's happening. My kid goes to school and has dance classes in Pasadena, and Pasadena and Altadena have been hit very hard. It was especially hard to see the community of undocumented workers who showed up right after the fires to help clean up our city be targeted for doing exactly what they did during the fires. They helped to do the work that needed to be done.
Kathy said the protests she's been at in Pasadena have been full of music from cars, music from live bands, music from people's voices yelling chants. And that might make those spaces a target, but
we can't let them rob us of joy. They come to the workplaces, churches, places of community like MacArthur Park because there is joy. That is our resistance. Joy is where we find the energy to keep resisting. It helps remind us that we are unchanged in our commitment and that they can't break our spirit. They might profile us by the color of our skin, but they will know us by the loudness of our voices singing about our power and our perseverance.
I feel like I've been hearing a lot about joy as resistance in the context of protest, but that description really hits different. Like, I can feel it more viscerally now.
Me too.
Okay, who's next?
All right, Parker. Remember our guests last time talked about the connection between joy and sorrow?
Yeah, they said that joy is kind of a tool to navigate sadness and oppression.
Exactly. This next person talked about how that dynamic affected her in a very personal way.
My name is Dr. Shar Newton. On December 14th, my father died unexpectedly of a massive heart attack. My mother, she was the one who found him. 11 days later on Christmas, just as she was driving home from Christmas dinner, she suffered a stroke and was hospitalized and has been in hospitals and rehabs since that time.
That's awful.
Yeah, it was. And she said it was made worse by the way her mother has been treated. Dr. Newton said she's seen doctors and nurses ignore her, hesitate to touch her, and make harmful assumptions about her care because she's a Black woman.
And yet, even in the midst of this cold and clinical disregard, Joy still, it found a way to crack in to the rooms that we entered into with my mom. There was one particular example of a nurse who noticed my mom responded to Motown music. She began to play it softly during her bed baths when my mom laid in a coma.
Dr. Newton told me one of the songs the nurse would play often was called Cool Jerk by the Capitals.
Oh, that's a jam.
Mm-hmm.
That music, that memory, it cut through the walls and the injustice, and it brought my mom back to me. If only for a moment she was there present with me, and that was Joy. And it gave me the strength to keep showing up.
I asked Dr. Newton where that music took her, like if there was a specific memory. And she said every Memorial Day, her mom used to host a cookout.
It was called Family and Friends. So everybody would come, she would provide the food, and she would have like a speaker in the window, and it would be playing the Motown music. And people could get up, you could dance, you could eat, you could drink. And I think within my culture, backyard barbecues and food and fellowship are a big part of what we do, and a part in which we connect. And so it took me back to those moments and seeing her and her friends get up and do like the cool jerk dance and just enjoy one another. And it brought back a smile to my face, and it brought joy in that moment.
Leah, that's beautiful, but it's a little heavy.
I know. But joy and pain, Parker, joy and pain.
I like sunshine and rain, sing it now, God's children.
Always.
I think you'll like hearing from this next person who wrote in. Her name is Emma Soberano, and she said that a few years ago, in the midst of the COVID pandemic and a very punishing PhD program, she found joy in romance novels, specifically ones that centered people of color and queer people.
Okay. All right, this is the kind of joy I'm talking about.
Despite how romance has grown more mainstream over the past 5 years, romance written by and for people of color and queer people remains largely at the margins. So there are small but tangible effects of reading romance by authors of color. You're supporting that writer, and because sales and reviews matter, telling the industry that they need to publish more of their work. But like I said, small effects. I'm also definitely wary of the idea that reading by itself is an act of resistance, that it serves some purpose, or that reading somehow improves people.
Emma said that showcasing art that doesn't center suffering feels really important to her because there's this very strong artistic tradition in which Black people and other people of color are like only allowed into the literary establishment by demonstrating their capacity for suffering. Like it was thought of as the thing that proved their humanity.
But this itself retains an othering, a way of denying full humanity, saying essentially that only your pain matters. And then it only matters because the assumed audience is white and they can gain something, learn something, gain empathy, whatever, through reading about, but not having to truly experience themselves that suffering. You only exist when suffering.
It's like the trauma porn we've seen so much of.
Mm-hmm. And Emma said it really made her think differently about her family's story. Like, her dad came to the U.S. from southern Mexico to become a veterinarian. He was a single parent for a long time.
When I was a kid, he would say like classic immigrant dad things of like, oh, when I came to the U.S., it was, winter in New York and I only had a jacket and $100 and a pair of sneakers. So like, I'm not allowed to complain, right?
Emma said the struggle parts of her dad's story, and so many immigrant stories, are what people often want to hear about. But she wonders what it would look like for the joyous parts to be taken just as seriously.
Yes, my dad had a really hard time coming to the US in a lot of ways. but he also, loves to keep bees. He gardens. He ferments his own kimchi. He's into bonsai. He has 2 rescue cats. He has a partner who loves him and who's really nice. And he has all of these great things in his life as well. And sometimes I think about, if I were to narrativize my dad's life, what are the parts that I would be focusing on in order to kind of not just tell his story, but sell his story, right? And that's kind of depressing.
Snuck the pain part in right there at the very end.
You can't separate them, Parker.
Ugh.
But I actually do have one more story for you. And I think this one is basically all joy, no pain.
No pain?
Very little pain.
All right.
Tiny amounts of pain.
Fine.
And it's actually from Kelly Carter Jackson, the historian we talked to on the last episode.
Who wrote the book We Refuse?
Mm-hmm. So I asked her what the last thing that she did that brought her joy was. And much to my surprise and delight, she gave me one of the fluffiest answers of anyone I spoke to.
Oh, so I had a garden party. I watched Meghan Markle's Meghan with Love on Netflix. And I absolutely was obsessed with the show. And mostly people kept saying, it's boring. And I was like, whatever, I need boring. I need simple. I want a good recipe. I want flower petals sprinkled on my eggs, whatever. I just wanted that soft life that she has. It was just when I watched that show. And so I wanted to bring together a group of my friends and just wear florals and soft colors, feel pretty and lovely, and just gather. So all of this started to happen right towards the end of May, early June, when the news was really depressing. I mean, everything was popping off in LA. You were seeing ice sweeps left and right. The night of my garden party, we bombed Iran. And so it just felt is this the time to really be doing something like this? But I've also been reading Priya Parker's The Art of Gathering, and that when you bring people together, you can't just have a party for the sake of having a party. You have to be really intentional. And so when I brought together this group of women, I said to them, one, I want you to bring a plant, and we're going to do a plant or a flower exchange. So you bring something, but you're going to leave with something. And then I said, I want you to think about 2 questions. I want you to think about what you're planting in your life. It could be metaphorical. It could be literal. But what are you planting? What seeds are you putting down in your life right now? And then I want you to think about, what are you uprooting in your life? What are you taking out? What needs to go? What's holding your ability to thrive back? And we went around our tables and just talked about the things that we were planting and talked about the things that we were uprooting. And it was so wonderful and joyous. One of our friends announced her pregnancy. She's like, I'm planting a baby. And we're like, oh my God. They didn't all know each other very well. And so, some of them started to get emotional. Some of them are going through some really hard times. I told my friends, I just want to love on you. I want to feed you. I want to have fellowship. I want you to be fortified by this garden party, so that when we leave from here, we're going back out into treacherous times, into a perilous environment. We're going back out to do battle. But let this garden party be the reprieve, the replenishment that you need it to be. That, for me, was my way of using joy as a weapon, of saying, right now, I'm really depressed. Right now, I feel helpless. I feel like there is nothing that I could do that is going to change the horrific things that are happening in Gaza or in LA or in my own city. But that felt like that small little chipping away that can be really meaningful and impactful, that small solution, that interpersonal connection. It was magical. It was just magical. And then I gave everybody gift bags, and I gave them little jars with flower petals. Flower petal sprinkles. And they're like, oh my God. And I gave them, because who doesn't want a good gift bag? You know what I mean?
I love that, and I feel like that's the best advertisement for that show that I've seen.
Yeah.
I also watched it.
I know, somebody tell Megan.
There you have it. Joy as resistance is flower petal sprinkles.
Code switch. Making the resistance. #beautiful.
This is our most NPR sounding. We sound like that SNL skit. I'm so sorry. Pecans. Like, what are we saying? For more of Code Switch's aesthetic stylings, you can follow us on Instagram at NPR Code Switch. If email is more your thing, ours is codeswitch@npr.org. And subscribe to the podcast on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also subscribe to the Code Switch newsletter by going to npr.org/codeswitchnewsletter. And if you subscribe, you get to hear my thoughts each week and let me know what's on your mind. It's how we connected with all the people you just heard about joy and resistance.
They're good thoughts. Just a reminder that signing up for Code Switch Plus is a great way to support our show and public media. And we get to listen to every show sponsor-free. So please go find out more at plus.npr.org/codeswitch. This episode was produced by Jess Kung. It was edited by Courtney Stein. Our engineer was Kwesi Lee.
And special thanks to all the dozens of listeners who wrote in with thoughts about joy. We couldn't feature all of them, but we did read them and loved them.
And a big shout out to the rest of the Code Switch massive. Christina Kala, Xavier Lopez, Dahlia Murtada, Verilyn Williams, and Jean Demby. I'm B.A. Parker.
And I'm Leah Donnella.
Hydrate. Say it. Say it.
Seek joy.
I know that hurt.
Joy and the pain. It hurt, but it felt good.
This message comes from Schwab. Everyone has moments when they could have done better. Same goes for where you invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab. Get market insights, education, and human help when you need it.
This message comes from Jerry. Many people overpay for car insurance because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/NPR today. This message comes from Bombas. Nearly 30% of marathoners end their race blistered. Bombas running socks are strategically cushioned to help say bye to blisters. Run to bombas.com/NPR and use code NPR for 20% off your first purchase.